Hello, everybody. Whoever's watching. This is episode 9 of A Minute with Mud, a clarifier on Mud's Shattered Operating System Phase 2. So today I didn't really feel like doing this, but I decided to do it anyway. And when I was walking to the store to get some supplies, I stopped. I was searching the cigarette butt container at a bar on the way, and someone was sitting there and they gave me a cigarette, and I took the courage to ask them what their passions or what their hobbies is or what do they like to do. And he was saying, he had a confused look on his face, but that's something that I always asked a lot of people. I've met lots and lots of people, tons of people, and he said knitting, and he had a scarf on, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. But he said because his mom taught him how to do that at a young age, and his mother had passed 4 years ago, and so every morning when he wakes up, he knits, and then he has his coffee, and then he goes to work, which was like Dairy Queen or something like that, and then he said, and then I always have a project that I'm working on, so it keeps me going. And he asked me what I do, and I told him I'm still just in recovery from a coma, and I started a YouTube show, and I always tell him trying to change the world, trying to save the world. Anyway, next month will be Aries. We'll be in Aries in the astrology, and the tarot card for Aries is the Fool. And I was really thinking about it walking here. I'm at the Fargo Library in a community, in a little study room, and I thought about it, the Fool. And this is a fool's situation for me. I have no idea what's going to happen next. I've got a lot of things going on, mentally anyway. And so the Fool is, Aries is also the beginning of the 12 signs cycle, and it makes me think about how on this clarifier, when I spoke on phase 2 about meeting my PhD, it made me think about how we're basically fools from birth on up until we learn something, right? So after my coma, I was clean. It was like a rebirth. Even my father when I was talking on the phone one day, he told me, "It sounds like you're like a newborn baby and stuff." And that's kind of how it was. I had no recollection, no domestication, no judgments, and then I had to process that to where it becomes a wisdom. And there's a guy at a group that always calls me the wise man, which I laugh at because I'm really no better or worse than anybody else. Anyway, it made me think about how when we went to Big Bend, Texas, where she showed me where she found her dinosaur, and how from an early age up until around 12, I was super into dinosaurs, and I always wanted to be an archaeologist. And then here, all of a sudden, it became. So it's almost like I was in my pre-teens at the time I met her. The progression yearly wise, and so maybe I'm thinking mid-20s mentally in my second go-around. I really don't know. So just to clarify things as best I can. I've always had nomadic bones since, even getting in my apartment I've been in this apartment 4 months, and the first month I just slept on the floor. I didn't know what to do with the place. People would tell me, oh, do you need furniture? Do you need this? Do you need that? And I'm a minimalist. I don't want that stuff. I don't want things. I don't want anything other than for us to be together and stuff. So my caseworker, she said, oh, somebody's donating a bed. And I addressed her and I told her, I don't want it at first. And then she's like, okay. And then later she called and said, there's another bed. And so I was like, oh, I don't know. I really don't know. And she was like, well, why don't you just try it out? And if you don't want it, we can re-gift it. And so I decided to get it. And I'm glad I did. It's a nice bed and dresser and stuff. I got a new haircut, cut all my dead cells off, So, my PhD, she worked on the mass spectrometer, which studies isotopes. And basically, with your hair, you can see, with the hair follicle test to see if you've done acid or psychedelics and things like that. You can tell everything from your hair. So all of that, I've trimmed up. I'm getting ready to rip it all out again, which is very painful, but it's liberating. I feel so much lighter. Like my body is more aligned with energy and stuff. I just listened to a new video about probiotics and how, we're not even, most of us is bacteria. Our whole physical makeup is more bacteria than anything, which is really hard. It hits home because it's like, what if people knew that when they were younger and took care of their bodies? So Leonardtown in Maryland was the first capital of the U.S. I found a fossil when she showed me the place where she found her dinosaur, and she's like, oh, that's where we used to be all the time. And I was like, okay, but it was kind of neat to find that. I had information overload for the very first time when I was living in there and working in McDonald's and Starbucks while she worked her day job. And that was very intense. I've had it so many times since that information overload is basically common for me. I don't want any of it anymore. So I guess I understand that it's more of a opportunity to share the information, share the knowledge with the confirmation bias and all this fits with that, this and this. So multiple things fit and it all kind of comes back into the one. That Standing Up for Sunny and Isn't It Romantic movies, I'll post those links on that video. I haven't shared that video yet. And then like in the beginning, I've always told them that it's just because love, that I know you're crazy because I'm crazy. If you want something to do with me, there's gotta be something wrong with you. And I love how the guy put that in Standing Up for Sunny. It's an awesome movie. Everyone would benefit from seeing that. But during the first phase of being with somebody, we ignore all those red flags, which is a big problem. It's been a big problem for me. I don't do that anymore. I say no to that stuff. Power versus force. I can't remember the name of the guy. I should know by now since I've heard it so many times and studied it. But lower vibration, shame, guilt, anger is lower, but those are low. And then there's this woman, Christy Marie Sheldon, for Lover Above and Mind Valley. Mind Valley is a publishing house for a lot of good people. Share amazing information, vision, and he's part of the SpaceX and with Peter Damascus and Elon Musk and those guys. Singularity University. She says lover above, and love is on a 500 scale. Like 1,200 or so, 1,000 or more is like light or enlightenment. But shame and guilt keep us low vibrations. And there's another woman, she spoke about the ideas on how anger leads to courage, and that's how it's labeled on that list. You have anger and then you have courage. Because if you have the anger, then you have the courage to do something about it, to change it, to make it better, to make it fit. And a lot of the ways we do that is by force, and instead of, this is a better way. And so I've tried to do that with PP Days, and in its design to make it agreeable. And a lot of people have been like, wow, awesome idea, do it, and all that stuff. Functional medicine, I'll see if I can find the podcast that I listened to about, he does a 10-day detox diet, and he talked about how this very unruly young girl would be constantly angry and getting in trouble in school and things like that, but all he did was change her diet after a detox situation, and then change the diet, and she became normal. So if you have problems with kids and things like that, it's a lot less to do with the behavior than the physical makeup, because we're all bacteria. I also mentioned about flying monkeys, and how flying monkeys are like people that are afraid, because any narcissism is a survival mechanism, but they're afraid of owning up to their things or being found out or changing their behaviors, becoming more empathetic and more connected as one. So they recruit other people to be against you. And I've had that most of my life. I'm like, oh, bring it. What do you need? Because, I was like, I'd rather die than give you control, kind of Nine Inch Nails situation. So flying monkeys comes from with the Wizard of Oz, with the witch making the flying monkeys do her biddings and things. And that was just like with my ex, and when I was doing the CPS reports and she knew I was doing them, I told her I would do them if things didn't change, because I wasn't going to just leave these kids in the unstable situation. And they all just said, well, you're crazy anyway, nobody's going to believe you, you're crazy anyway. Karma comes back around. So, it's difficult talking here. There's a in the little town in Valley City, and a lot of little towns are like, do I know you? Do I know you? They always ask that question because they're so tribal in a way, and gossipy and backstab. Like it's very seclusion, a lot of seclusion involved. So everybody kept saying, do I know you? Do I know you? And I'm like, when you think you know someone, you don't. You really don't. When you think you know someone, you don't. We all change. Every day is different. Tomorrow you'll be a different person. Every moment you'll be a different person. Eckhart Tolle and the power of now. Well, even just saying now is in the past already. So, so many things. I wanted to show you my friend Evan made me this. I'm gonna make a necklace for it. It's he said it's the first one with three shells, three rocks in it that he made, and I had done a podcast experience with him that I could maybe share. I don't know if I lost it or not, but he was somebody who taught me about accumulation, and everything since birth we've accumulated. Everything since thousands of years we've accumulated. All this history talk. We haven't let things go and became present. So that's something that I really want to be reminded of, because all this accumulation, I'm trying to unload it here on these videos and just be done with it. So yeah, that was an interesting experience, because I stopped talking with people. I became nomadic, trying to figure out how to heal for me, how to heal me, because I was always the preacher trying to say, oh, this is best for you, this is best for you. And then I did the peer support specialist training and realized that I had a problem with shitting on people and telling them that instead of asking them what they want. Like, what do you want? What can I help you build your dreams and that kind of stuff. That's a lot of what life coaches seem to be. I mean, that's the purpose of them, I guess. And Udemy, on udemy.com, it's an educational source, and there's a free course on life coaching and all kinds of other stuff as well. I get my best ideas when I'm in the bath, and then when I get out of the bath, I change mindsets. Mental mind maps. We've all got our own. We've all got our unique experiences, and to connect those together is sort of the goal of the Good Arts Army and people being of service and volunteering. I've done a whole lot of volunteering work, and it really surprised me how certain people, I'd ask them to volunteer with me and they'd be like, oh sure, and then they wouldn't. I don't understand the social disconnect there when they can go to bars and find family in a bar, but they won't go to a recovery church, or they won't go to places to volunteer to feel better about themselves and what they offer. One of my homeless friends, he was like, I saw him a while back at Churches United in Moorhead, and he's like, oh, I'm volunteering. He's like, I'd rather be of service, and then instead of always just having my hand out. And I appreciate that as well, because there's no real help for these homeless people. When you give them $1, you're not going to change their life. You're not going to help them. All these learned helplessness, all those kind of things. There's really no way of involving anyone in a change process without them wanting to do it, without it being fun. And that's the whole idea behind Planet Perfect Days, is to make it a game. To do all the things that we already do, but make it a game. I'm not sure how much I can clarify with my PhD and those years. Yeah, I'm gonna be taking a break from this. The next video I do, I'm gonna do a crowdfunding campaign on No Butts Left Behind, which hopefully works through TerraCycle. I'm going to be contacting the Chamber of Commerce and all these other people, the river keepers, to try and get people to recycle their cigarette butts in Fargo and Moorhead. And it might be a big goal, but whatever. Dream big. It's dream big. And that's something with the guy who did Virgin Airlines, Richard Branson, and he said something about, if you think big, your problems become smaller. Like, only the real problems exist, and then you can work through those. So I'm like, whatever happened last night when I was walking home, I was like, whatever happened to don't litter signs? There's no more don't litter signs. And that just goes with the whole hypernormalization, which is an awesome video documentary too. It's a long one, but it talks about how we've been conditioned since the 40s, 50s, 60s, all up until then. I mean, in the 40s, sugar was introduced into society for the masses. It used to be a treat. We used to eat 150 grams of fiber a day. Now they only say to eat 35. Shoes became plastic soles in the 60s. So barefoot, I mean, you're grounding. It's like you're a battery for the earth. There's a whole lot of stuff. So it made me think about how Robert Kiyosaki, he does a recent video I've seen where he was talking to like a legislator or a senator about how to help poor people, and he's just like, just keep them poor, just to stop them. Well, we can all complain about the 1%, but really what we need to do is unify and, like I say, unite, rise, smile, and shine. That's this in that order. We come together, we rise up, we smile. You gotta have the good situation going on, and then we're shining. So that's kind of the growth steps of growth with Planet Perfect Days, and So I'm going to be doing that campaign through TerraCycle.com or .org, where they recycle cigarette butts. There's a lot of other places that recycle cigarette butts too, and they make like boards and different things out of them. And there's billions of pounds every year that get thrown in the ground, into the ocean, into the waters. So, you know, I quit smoking for 2 months last year after I went to treatment for suicidal ideation. 8 days in treatment there, and then I can usually quit smoking either when I go to jail or when I go into treatment, because that was the first time I self-admitted myself. The other time was when I was 16 and got emancipated. Then so I'd like to do that again, and just for anybody doing cigarette butts, they have a recycle your butts container in Fargo. I first seen a few months ago they put it in, and nobody uses it. I mean, nobody uses these things. So TerraCycle has these containers that you can put advertisements on them, sponsors, those kind of things. So I'm gonna try to do that. And so the next video, I'm gonna do that, about that. It's gonna take some efforts. But for now, I'm still doing this. It's been 9-10 days, March 10th today, that I've done it every day, and it's been humbling as well as liberating to just let go and share my story with whoever's listening, and maybe help somebody, maybe not. I've got a lot of information, but information is useless without application. So with that attitude, I would like to say thank you for any of this. I mean, I'm doing this for me, and a lot of the best things do happen when you're doing it for you and not worrying about what other people think. So I'm gaining my confidence. I actually did not go to the University of Hawaii. I mean, being there for 30 days homeless was a great experience, but I got this from a place called Open Door, where they help people. So a lot of these services for people with less, I support them. I think they're probably more valuable than getting an extra, a pay raise or having your money, because how many people have money and don't use it correctly? Also purchase things that are damaging. I remember a few years back when it was these $6 billion, I think, dollars spent for Christmas. And how many of those dollars were spent to the good wolves, to the ones who are helping people, and on sustainable, recyclable products? Very, very few, I think. But in the future, we're going to have to do something. And we're already at that point. Everybody complains about global warming and presidents and things like that. Well, on the topic of the presidents and elections and debates, a few people have asked me, have you voted? And I'm like, I don't vote. I'm never going to vote. Why would I vote? They did an experiment in China to see if democracy would work there, and nobody would agree to it. And the reason was because people are appointed to vote for. So we only have a choice to vote for that one person or a few people. And instead of how, like, building a fort, I say building a fort is kind of like everybody gets a chance, everybody gets a shot. There's nominations, of course, like, oh, we want that guy as our leader, we want that guy, but everybody should be allowed to be on that ballot. Everybody. That's the only fair way to work, that it would work. So democracy is a bunch of crap. I mean, it's gotten us this far, but obviously we have to have a disruptor as a president in order for us to wake up. This whole government control issue, it's gone way too far. And so, people had gotten really upset with me when I said Donald Trump is like a hero to me, and they would be like, whoa. I mean, I got some hardcore negative vibes thrown at me after that. And I was like, oh, wait, let me explain. Because before Hitler, Holocausts were acceptable. Genocides were more acceptable until Hitler came. Sometimes we have to understand that the stove is hot, but we'll never really know until we touch the stove. You know, it's like, and cellular wise too, in biological terms, our cells do not know unless we go through the experience. We can imagine this, read that, talk to other people, hear stories, and yeah, definitely avoid certain things because somebody else had done it. But until you do it, you'll never actually get the feel, like the experience. The human operating system, can't remember his name, Kent was his name. He does the human operating system. He talks about the different levels and he puts levels in colors, and he says we're in pluralistic right now and we're going into integral. So the integrity, when we have integrity, it's going to be more lit up, and he talks about the levels, and there's like 7 or 8 levels as well. And then we go into clear light, which is the highest ones. So, I mean, here we are in 2020, the beginning of another 10-year cycle, and by the end of this 2020, when it becomes 2030, I can imagine we'll be a lot more connected than previously. I mean, it's kind of like the rebirth of the 60s generation is what I kind of attributed it to where hopefully we can come together a lot quicker, and we have the internet for that. So, I mean, I really don't have a whole lot to say this time. My passions, my emotional stability has been a little bit low the last couple days. So, you know, now we have the full moon. Mercury's going the same direction, just not as appearing retrograde. The planets, the stars, all that, we've came from that. And I understand that most people just do their daily grind. The guy that I talked to, he's like, it's a job, it pays the bills. Working at Dairy Queen, do you really want to do that stuff? I mean, the guy obviously has issues, and I mean, being in a bar, and then couple of ladies came out and they were talking like they were best friends. So that's where they get their social groups from. And I used to do that. I used to do that a lot, where it was like, oh, we'll go to the bar. You know, Valley City, same thing. They had like 8 bars in that town of like 7,000 people. So it was a college town too. But I don't know. Just reach out, touch someone, touch yourself. You know, that's a healthy thing. You know, on the personal admissions and confessional, or you know, what do they call it? Full disclosure. Full disclosure is I do my best to masturbate every day so that my body heals itself, because sexuality heals you. And I would love to find somebody that, you know, I was compatible with, but with as much growth and destruction that I've had, and you know, I'm 39 now, so once you go through so much of it, a lot of other things don't really matter. And I keep hearing my mom saying you need to forget about girls and become a nun, and it's a slip of tongue, but I was like, what do you mean I have to get breast implants? And she's like, you know what I mean, with her grit. She's very full of grit. My family has a lot of grit in it. They're amazing people. I came from a good breed. So hopefully blessings, you know, on all of your journeys, and hopefully you can come into some form of healing. My love, take care of yourselves and others. Peace, love, and affection.